Well, hello, everybody. Blair Nightingale here for Stock Talk Thursday, doing a pre-recorded this week. Still very excited about this episode. What's going to be interesting about this is that we're going to cover some things today. And actually, by the time you see this, we're going to have some more information because we're going to look at some charts today, as we always do on Stock Talk. Remember, this is the end of week one-stop shop where you're going to get what is hot, what is not, and what's going on in the news. News has a major impact on the markets and what happens. So it's good to know, but it's also good to cut through the noise. And we try to do that for you every week here on Stock Talk Thursday. But again, I'm going to be with some friends out in Tampa, TRADEway, doing some live events this summer. Big event, going to have a lot of people, maybe a couple hundred people even joining us in Tampa. So that's where I'm at right now, but still wanted to make sure to spend some time with you guys this week. We'll be back on Monday as normal for Market Monday. But here we are, Stock Talk Thursday. As I mentioned already, what's hot, what's not, what's going on in the news. Now, there's so many different things we could cover in each of these. I try to find something to highlight every week where there's something exciting going on, something that also I think within that is going to be useful for you as a trader, right? Something to highlight for you as a trader. And I've got some examples of that for you today. What's interesting is that not only are you going to be able to look back tomorrow, having seen what I've now and right now am recording on Wednesday afternoon, but because it's Wednesday afternoon, we're going to look at some things that are actually live in the market. Normally, when we're together on Thursdays, the market is already closed. So that's interesting. Little bonus here as well. So let me go ahead, put the market up on the screen. We're looking at the S&P 500. We've looked at this many times on Stock Talk Thursday as well as on Market Mondays. What I want to show you today is where we're going to start on what's not hot. Now, this is interesting. Go ahead and look at, boom. I'm going to move this guy out of the way and just zoom out a little bit. Now, if you've been following along, we're really looking for a pattern, aren't we? Sometimes you got to go out pretty far. And this guy has been doing that. Now, that's a bit of a mess, okay, overall. I'm just going to go ahead and clone that line, pop that in there. That gives us kind of an idea of what the stock is doing. But of course, where is it now? Way down here, okay? It started to bounce a little bit since this morning when I first looked at this. It's getting some recovery. It's down about 25%. We're looking at Weight Watchers, by the way. WW is the ticker for Weight Watchers. Now, we talked in recent episodes about how earnings can have an effect on a stock. You'll notice at the bottom of my screen, there's this red E here, earnings, right? And they did not do as well as Wall Street expected them to. So certainly that hurt the stock. Now, we've actually covered that when it comes to earnings. So that is a repetition for us, right? Here it is again. However, they got hit on two sides today, which is also part of why the stock didn't just drop, but dropped pretty considerably, okay? And like I said, it was down further than 25, almost 26% earlier today when it was at 22.81. So about $1.20 further from where it is right now. They actually got downgraded by a rating agency, okay? Now, this is something we haven't covered on here before. Remember, I said we want to look at a stock and see what's going on, but we also want to learn something new about trading. Well, here's what's not hot. Being in a stock during earnings, when that stock misses on earnings and gaps down, which is why you see this large gap here. Not a good habit for a trader to have, okay? Investing and trading, two different skill sets. We say that every week. This is trading, not hot to stay in the stock when it's going to report earnings. And certainly this is a perfect example of why. Again, we covered some of that, but also downgrading, right? Their miss on earnings spawned a downgrade. Now, to talk about that for a second, Wall Street will release ratings on stocks, okay? These are agencies, right? Some you could say better than others, or at least more established, more notoriety than others. But there are many ratings agencies, and they give stocks a rating. Is this stock a buy? Is this stock a sell? They'll say, is this stock underweight? Is it overweight, right? It's underweight, meaning it's not doing very well, but it actually should be doing better based on how the company's doing. It's overweight. Stock is really up, right? But it's not actually performing according to what the company is performing at, or at least what they anticipate that company will do. Okay, so these are ratings, and financial advisors, folks like yourself at home, can go and look at these ratings and say, okay, based on the positivity or the negativity of these ratings agencies, right, I can make investment decisions, or I can take that into account as part of how I make investment decisions. Now, what we're training you to do here at TRADEway is be able to make those decisions for yourself. And that tends to be something that falls more under the buy and hold long-term investing, not under a trading skill set that we would use ratings agencies. TRADEway doesn't teach that we use ratings agencies to make buy and sell decisions. Now, it is a news item that can affect the stock, and we saw that here in Weight Watchers. TRADEway does teach a trading strategy that can take advantage of upgrades and downgrades after they have happened. Okay, that's an advanced skill set that we teach. It's very cool, but it's not something that we use to say, oh, there's a buy rating, I'm going to buy that stock. There's a sell rating, I'm going to sell that stock. That's somebody else doing certain calculations and telling you and I, we think you should buy this stock. A lot of times, and it's not that they don't have to disclose this information, they do have to disclose this, but a lot of times those people may have a position in the stock. Not necessarily to say a ratings agency does, but somebody online who's saying, or a newsletter or Motley Fool or something like that, that's saying, we think you should buy this stock. There'll be a disclosure at the bottom that will say whether or not they have a position in that. It's always something you should watch for. It's a bit of a side note, but I think it's very helpful to have in there. But as far as a ratings agency goes, this can affect the stock. Now, you say, Blair, couldn't they have given it a higher rating, a better rating, and it actually went up? Well, that's true. It could have. It could have gone the other way. And that, of course, happens with earnings in general as well. It could go both ways. Weight Watchers could have gapped up 25%. That happens. The problem is we don't know, right? We don't know which way it's going to go. But this one today, definitely not hot. What's interesting here is, okay, now that we've kind of established this pattern, right, that it had been in, more of a longer term pattern, okay? Every candlestick on this screen today is a day. Go to the week, change each one of them to a weekly. It's very clear, right? Very clear with the pattern. Remember, each candlestick now in this chart, it's not a day, but represents a trading week, 5 days, okay? Unless there was a holiday in there, it'd be 4 days, but it's 5 days in one candlestick. And then, of course, it doesn't represent the gap right now. It shows a full candlestick for the move down today, but very clear on the pattern. Now that we're outside of that pattern, there's really nothing we're waiting for on this except for it to reestablish a pattern. So there's another reason I would say not hot, because it's not any pattern, right? It's not just hot or not because it's up or down. It's because there are not or are, let me say that differently, the conditions to want to trade it are present or they're not, right? Up and down isn't always the case. I could show you some stocks right now that are moving down, but they wouldn't go on my not hot list, right? They might go on what I call my go list, the list I'm going to be watching for a near future trade. because stocks move up and down. That's normal. It's some other factors that move it from the hot or not list. And one of those things here is it's not in the pattern. It's simply not in a pattern anymore. So we've got to watch and see what's going to happen with Weight Watchers. Of course, again, by the time you see this, you're going to have a full candlestick of information from today, see where it landed on Wednesday, and then where we're at by Thursday afternoon. That is what is not. Now, as I went through stocks today, I noticed a lot of stocks in a particular industry, sector in particular, that was doing very well. And that's what I want to show you today in what is hot. Now, we've looked at these ETFs on here before and talked about those. Sounds like a really technical term. They just represent the movement of a particular sector in the stock market, okay? The economy is broken into sectors, right? We've got energy, we've got technology, in this case, financials, banks, and financial services. This has been doing very, very well, okay? Had a move down, went sideways for a little while, but has really started to pick up, okay? Not only did it pick up, but it came back to the high. Look at the line I've got on the chart here on the left side. Okay, we're now looking to see, and you guys will be able to see this, did it close above that line today? Or did it pull back below it? Looking at about $38.60. Technically speaking, to get the exact number here, $38.60, right? That's the high of this day right here. So that means it's not only moving up quite aggressively, but it's closing above its all-time high, right? So if we can stay above that, that says that buyers were willing to purchase this at a price they've never been willing to purchase it at, and they held it there, right? They didn't allow it to drop from that by the end of the day. That is very bullish, we would say. That is very bullish. This chart has been doing very well, okay? Now, something else I would say, and we've talked about this on Market Monday, is that if I see an entire sector that is doing well, what's something I could do with that, right? If the sector is really hot, well, perhaps I could go and look for some stocks that are in that sector, right? We're looking at trading, right? Trading stocks. I could look at some stocks within that sector and see if they have a pattern. And then I go through the process of implementing the TRADEway system from there. That's what I would want to do with that. And that could be a very helpful thing. So not only knowing what's a particular hot stock, or is the market hot, right? Sometimes on Stock Talk, we go, hey, this is what we need to look at for hot. The NASDAQ is really hot. The Dow Jones is really hot. The S&P 500 is really hot. Maybe, and oftentimes, they're all hot at the same time, right? That's the market as a whole. But let's narrow that down a little. Here we are. We're looking at financials, okay? So looking at those, that can be tremendously helpful to narrow down what's a good area for me to be looking right now. Well, if financials are performing so well, maybe I ought to look at some financial stocks for trades. But I still need to implement the system in order to know what stock, when, and why. And that's what our system does. What, when, and why. We don't crystal ball. We don't guess. It's never guessing, gambling, or going for it. But we implement the system, and this helps us narrow down literally thousands of stocks to know what are the better and even best opportunities for me and my money. And that is why financials, in this case, the ticker specifically XLF, is on the hot list. Heading back to the S&P. Oop, wrong one. There it is. You can see that we're at resistance, kind of going sideways. We use something here at TRADEway called market tone. We always want to know the market tone. Are things generally more positive, generally more negative? Are we closer to resistance? Are we closer to support? And then lastly, what's going on in the news? That's a big part of it for us. It's not the biggest, but it is a big part of what we look at when we assess market tone. Should I be buying or selling right now, right? Remember I said the system helps us know what, when, and why. What to buy, when to buy, why would I buy it, okay? It helps us do so many things, and that's why it's so important to apply the system. Well, market tone is a big part of that, and that's why we spend some time on news every time we get together on Stock Talk Thursday. Now, the news is interesting because there's a few major items out there, but right now only really one that Wall Street is gravitating towards, at least as of 1:18 p.m. Central Time on Wednesday, okay? I'll be interested to see how this plays out even by the time you guys are watching this video, because the infrastructure bill passed in the Senate yesterday. Okay, this is a massive, massive spending bill, and it'll be interesting to see how Wall Street embraces that. Is this going to be a positive for them? Hey, there's money coming in. It's going to be in infrastructure, which is a very broad term for a several thousand-page bill that was passed in the Senate. But infrastructure, is that going to be a positive for them? Or is it going to be, whoa, we're spending a lot of money? And the main item I'm going to draw your attention to today is not necessarily the infrastructure bill. And that's my point. Wall Street doesn't always gravitate to the news items we think that they're going to gravitate to. Now, that can change, right? But as of today, really, there is concern about inflation. And you and I have talked about this multiple times. But usually the main news item isn't just the main news item for a couple of days. It hangs around for a while, right? It becomes a market driver. It becomes something that the market is looking at consistently. And, you know, target inflation, right? The amount of inflation that the government is really looking for us to sit at as a country is around 2%. That's usually what it is, around 2%. It's over 5% right now. And that has been the cause of multiple moves down. This one here, this here, this here, and there was a bigger one back here. Okay, so anytime the market's been more spooked over the last while, right, year or so, it's been interest rates. Now, obviously, we had COVID in there, of course, so I wouldn't even say the last year. It's been shorter than that it's specifically around inflation. But inflation is high. Now, the Fed has been saying, okay, it's transitory, meaning it's just something we're passing through. It's because of COVID. So it looks worse than we'd like, but we don't actually think that it represents it as negative as we would normally because of COVID. So just wait it out because it's actually going to even out. Now, Wall Street hasn't really accepted that. They've been willing to go along with it a little bit. They haven't really accepted that from what I could see. And today we got inflation numbers that are far worse than 2%, but not as bad as Wall Street had expected. Almost, but not quite. Right? Not quite. And that had Wall Street going, okay, maybe the Fed is telling the truth, right? Maybe they're right. Maybe it is going to be something that lessens over time. And this started to show a sign, potentially, of that. And so we've got the market here that you're looking at on your screen that is not really going up much, but it's also not coming down. So this is what we call indecision, right? There is indecision in the market. There's a little bit of mixed news. So should we go in fully in the market? Should we wait? Are we going to sell? Are we going to buy? That doesn't create the best environment for you and I trading stocks when that's a little bit foggy. So what we really want to see is some decision here. We've got, this will be my last thing I'll say today. We've got these candlesticks here. If you've done any of our courses, then you know we have a name for that. Now, this isn't a TRADEway name. This is a candlestick name, and it's a doji, right? It's a doji, and that means that there's indecision. It looks like a little cross, doesn't it? A little star almost. It's flat. It hasn't gone up. It hasn't gone down. And that means traders aren't deciding which way they really want it to go. But here's what I would say to you today. That's the major news item. Don't forget, this isn't about fear, but don't forget, we're actually at resistance here. The market is bullish, right? It wants to go up, but we're still at resistance. So one of the things we're really teaching our students is, how do I actually be active in the market when things are a little more foggy, but not risk as much? Okay. So those are some of the things we want to show you how to do as well. If you're feeling like, I want to be in, I feel kind of stuck, I feel kind of paralyzed, the market's not doing much, it's going up a little, right? We can see it. It's moving up along resistance. But how do I actually navigate that safely? That's something that we want to show you. Now, I'll tell you guys this. We have a free webinar coming up. Okay, this will be posted for you to click on. We've got a free webinar coming up. Jeffrey, Nance, and myself are doing a free trading topical workshop. So I talked about some of those things that you want to know how to do. Come on into this class, sign up. There's going to be a link posted. You'll be able to sign up. It's going to be a free class for you to join, and we would love to have you guys here. We usually do about 45 to 60 minutes. This is going to be on August 19th, okay, 11 a.m. Central Time. We're going to go into a whole topic on trading for you guys, and you're going to want to be there for that. Jeffrey and I have been working on this for a little while, so we want to make sure you get in there. Why not get more? Why not get more knowledge, more tools, skills in your belt? Because that's what this is all about. And that's, of course, why we do these things for you guys. So go ahead, click the link, sign up for that, jump on in. That is Stock Talk Thursday. Going to be very interested to check in with you guys on Monday and just see how some of these things went. Perhaps even next Thursday, we'll be going live. I'll be coming back, and we'll actually just check in on some of these things and see how they played out. Because again, we've got this pre-recorded, which offers something a little bit different for us that I think will be interesting to look at. Thank you guys so much for being on here. I appreciate you spending some time with me every Thursday night. As I said, we'll be back for Market Monday on Monday, same time. We'll be live, and I will see you guys then.